doing?
Oh, you can say action?
More? Okay.
$5, the urge to urinate's gonna come in like 5 seconds.
Use it. Work with it. Here we go.
People think it comes from the faucet. It comes from a protected watershed. The forest filters my water. I protect the forest. In our entire country, there are only 6 major metropolitan areas like this: Boston, New York, San Francisco, Portland, Tacoma, and us. To maintain our upper watershed and to pipe clean water to every house, every faucet, every shower, sink, bathtub, toilet, dishwasher, washing machine, garden hose, irrigation sprinkler, golf course, factory, office tower, school, church, synagogue, mosque, shopping mall, every business, every restaurant, and all the fire hydrants. To have all this ready access to clean drinking water, it costs me and my family about half a penny per gallon. This costs $1.40 for 16 ounces. There are 128 ounces in a gallon. 128 ounces divided by 16 ounces equals about 8 of these plastic bottles. So 8 bottles times $1.40 equals $11.20. This costs half a penny per gallon, and it comes right to my tap. This costs $11.20 per gallon, and I have to drive to the store to get it. Do the math.
I got this in a 24-pack from Amazon for $14.99. This bottle in bulk was only 62 cents. That means a gallon would be $4.99.
I got this bottle in a 35-pack from Costco for $4.95. That's 14 cents per bottle and $1.12 per gallon.
I went to Walmart and I got this in a 24-pack for $2.65. That means each bottle was only 11 cents. That means I could have an entire gallon for 88 cents.
Chester Morse Reservoir fills up Wash Creek, Rock Creek, Taylor Creek, Peterson Creek, Madsen Creek.
The Cedar River fills up half of Lake Washington. May Creek, Coal Creek, Kelsey Creek, Forbes Creek, Juanita Creek, Denny Creek.
The Issaquah Creek Basin, Tibbetts Creek, Lake Sammamish, the Sammamish River, Evans Creek, Cottage Creek, Little Bear Creek, Bear Creek, North Creek, Swamp Creek.
The other half of Lake Washington fills up Lion Creek, McAleer Creek, Thornton Creek, Green Lake.
All that water squeezes through the Montlake Cut, circles Lake Union, flushes the Ballard Locks, hits saltwater, feeds the nearshore habitat, and finally fills up Puget Sound. That's how it's organized. That's how it flows.
No, the entire plumbing has been reversed.
100 years ago, there were no Ballard Locks. Lake Washington flowed out the south end and into the Black River, the shortest river in the world, which now no longer exists. It's buried under the city of Renton. The early Seattle industrialists wanted to find a way to haul lots of timber and coal on barges out of the Lake Washington region, which was totally covered with old-growth forest. So, we rerouted the Cedar River to empty into Lake Washington, dug the Montlake Cut, and built the Ballard Locks. The Duwamish River lost half of its flow. Lake Washington shorelines dropped by 9 feet. We ended up with totally new plumbing, and several generations of native salmon were totally confused.
We have a man-made system. We created it. We rely on it. We have to manage it very carefully.
I live on Bear Creek. I go to school here. We play against these schools. I get my gas here. My girlfriend's house, my buddies live here. I get my water from here. When I flush my toilet, it goes over there. The shoes I'm wearing were manufactured in China. Same with my iPod, my laptop, my TV, my cell phone, my sweatshirt, my underwear, jeans, belt, whatever. I get my food from the grocery store, which gets my food from somebody else's watershed. Sometimes I go to the farmer's market. That food comes from right over here. In a hurry, I get fast food from here, 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 and here. The electricity to recharge my cell phone comes from here, which connects to the grid that connects to my Xbox, and the clothes dryer and the lights in the football stadium, and the office building where my dad works. The garbage goes in a truck which takes it away, I don't know, somewhere. My recycling goes this way, my food compost and grass clippings go that way. The air I breathe blows in from here. Rain falls pretty much everywhere, and stormwater pollution runs off all the rooftops and the lawns and the driveways and the streets. It all goes in there.
King County.
Snohomish County.
City boundaries cut right through streams.
School district boundaries divide up the watershed like this.
Sometimes I try to imagine what it would look like if city boundaries and school district boundaries had the same ecological logic as the watershed.
That's what the first people knew. They knew their watershed address, stream by stream. They built their settlements based on the confluence of rivers, floodplain, and estuary. That's where the food was. The streams divided the landscape, and the seasons provided abundance because salmon swam through this whole story. And it was probably going on for at least 5,000 years. 40 to 50,000 people distributed in something like 260 longhouse villages.
The next people who came along built their cities based on the grid system, a new kind of logic for dividing up the landscape. Not watersheds, but townships with lines of longitude and latitude, slicing across natural boundaries.
Seattle, 1856. A guy sketched it from a sailing ship anchored in Elliott Bay. He's looking at Safeco Field and the ferryboat docks, only he doesn't know it. What he sees is a massive blanket of continuous, old-growth forest, trees 1,000 years old, right up to the Elliott Bay shoreline. In the center of town, he sketches Yesler's sawmill, busy shipping timber to San Francisco for the gold mines, and the new railroads. North of town, the Methodist Church. South of town, Madame Damnable's establishment, a brothel.
Seattle, 22 years later. We got ourselves a respectable little town. Regular houses, families, churches, schools.
19 years later, a small city, multiple sawmills, shipbuilding, railroads arriving from across the nation.
12 years later, 80,000 people.
12 more years, 240,000 people.
We built a lot of roads. We built up a vast network of water supply pipes to bring clean water to every sink, shower, tub, and toilet. We built state-of-the-art wastewater treatment centers. Within 12 hours after I flush, that water gets treated and is right back in Puget Sound.
We built miles and miles of stormwater pipes, with curbs and stormwater drains to carry rainwater away from our streets.
It's a complicated overlay of stormwater, wastewater, and water supply. It's all about pipes. Here's the situation.
There's a 22% permanent cap on annual water withdrawal for all human use from the Cedar River. That's the total limit of all the water we can take out of the system to meet our needs. It's capped at 22%. If I gave you 100 pennies, you could use 22 of them. If I bought you a whole pizza, you could only eat 2 slices.
We need 78% in the river so salmon have enough water to swim upstream to their spawning grounds and won't get stuck in any dry gravel beds.
We need 78% in the river so that the Ballard locks can get boats up and down from sea level to lake level, and so salmon can migrate out as smolts and back in as adults.
We need 78% in the river so that the 2 floating bridges can float, because if the water level in the lake changes more than a foot or 2, the bridges will snap. We have to manage the watershed very, very carefully. And right now, we are using between 18 and 20% depending on the season. That's our current consumption. That's only 4% from the limit. We are really close to the permanent cap of 22%. We saw this coming. About 70% of the people served by the Seattle Public Utilities get their drinking water from here, the Chester Morse Reservoir at the headwaters of the Cedar River watershed. The other 30% of these customers get their water from the Tolt. If we need to, we can send water back and forth between the two systems, but basically, anyone living north of Green Lake gets their drinking water from the Tolt Reservoir, and everybody living to the south gets their drinking water from the Chester Morse Reservoir. Without the addition of the Tolt system, there is no way we could meet our cap of 22% on the Cedar River supply, which balances the demand for drinking water with salmon, the locks, and the floating bridges. Of course, the Tolt River is not part of our natural watershed. So to meet our needs, we are actually importing water from somebody else's watershed, the city of Everett and the people in Snohomish County, to quench our own thirst. It's not going to work. That's what some of our cities were thinking in 1999, just before the turn of the century when I was 4 years old. 5 cities and 3 water and sewer districts got together to form the Cascade Water Alliance. Right now, the Cascade Water Alliance is working on a 50-year plan to divert water from the White River into the Lake Tapps Reservoir, store it there, ensuring a balance between lake levels and withdrawal rates, and then build a new system of pipes to serve all of their member cities: Bellevue, Redmond, Kirkland, Issaquah, Tukwila, the Covington Water District, the Sammamish Plateau, and Skyway Water and Sewer Districts. That's 400,000 residents and more than 22,000 businesses. The Cascade Water Alliance is currently buying wholesale water from Seattle Public Utilities, which gets its water from the 2 reservoirs we all share.
Burien, SeaTac, Des Moines, and Normandy Park are also consuming Cedar River water, even though they are outside the watershed boundaries. These cities, pipes bring water from the Cedar across the Green Duwamish watershed into their neighborhoods.
These communities do not use any of the water supply systems we've been talking about. They pump well water from underground aquifers. Withdrawals have to be balanced with the rate that the underground aquifers can naturally recharge.
Cedar River water supply, Tolt River water supply, groundwater wells, Lake Tapps and the Cascade Water Alliance, roads, wastewater pipes, city boundaries, county boundaries.
And then it gets even more complicated because the human population in our region is growing by about 18,000 people every year. That's 50 people a day, 2 people every hour.
This is like getting a final exam with 1 question on it, and you have to write a 500-word essay. And you have to turn it in before the bell rings, and the bell is going to ring at 2:35, and then school will be over. And so, here's the question.
If our local climate develops in the way the scenarios suggest, it will mean that in winter and spring, there will be too much water, causing floods and mudslides.
With warmer temperatures, we will have 50% less snowpack in the mountains. So by late summer, with no snow to melt in our streams, there will not be enough water. Forests will dry out, becoming more vulnerable to fire and disease. Salmon will find new obstacles in swollen winter streams that wash out spawning habitat, as well as overheated summer streams with too little water. The 2 greatest increases in thermal stress for salmon will occur in the interior Columbia River Basin and the Lake Washington Ship Canal, the Ballard Locks. That's us.
Low flows in our rivers will choke hydropower production and irrigation for farms. Rising sea levels and acidification will affect development and habitat conditions for oysters and clams, a $77 million industry. Growing populations and economic activity are expected to put even more pressure on regional water sources. In the context of these escalating demands, the primary impact of climate change on the Northwest will be increased competition and conflict over access to water supply.
At least we can grow better tomatoes.
What?
What? I don't even know how to get started.
It's not going to work.
Of course it's going to work. I live here. That's the whole point of going to school, to figure out how to solve problems like this. By 2050, probably a lot sooner than that, we won't even have grades in school anymore. We'll measure academic excellence on whether we know how to understand complex systems, identify challenges, and invent solutions. I want to know my watershed address.